Well, that has to be about the worst name ever given to a guitar. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. For Would You Rock or Not today, I'm going to take us back to early 2017 and issue a formal apology for never talking about this guitar, the Les Paul Custom Studio. Now, this particular instrument was part of Gibson's new S-Series, which was the response to all the haters saying, your products are too expensive, make a cheaper one, give it to me for free, or I'll say it's overpriced in the comments section. The one that gained the most traction out of this series was the Firebird Zero. Pretty much everybody hated this thing, but when I reviewed it as a used guitar model, I thought, it's not as bad as a lot of people think. You can check out my full review and demo, but if you go into that guitar not expecting a traditional Gibson in sound and feel, they're actually okay. But I definitely would have never paid $500 new. The other one that gained traction was the Gibson M2 or M squared. I'm not really sure how they want you to pronounce that. People talked about this one because look at the plethora of colors here. Ebony, phantom gray, citron green, teal, strawberry milk, and bright cherry. I've never actually tried one of those, but the front-loading electronics on this one, for some reason, just doesn't work on this model for me, but yet I still love the Marauder. But these guys were even more affordable than the Firebird Zero. Then there's the SG version of that at $599. Then there's the slightly higher end version of the M squared called the Les Paul Custom Studio. Wait, no, they've got that wrong. See, this is called the Custom Special. And those guys were at $699 and were also offered in a plethora of colors. But the S-Series, the whole point behind it, once again, was for an inexpensive entry Gibson model, similar to like the Melody Makers, but spicing them up a little bit and having a few different price points available for entry-level models for people who wanted Gibson on the headstock. But I recently ran into an old article about this custom studio, and the wood grain made me go, that's an ash body. That's something that I would have went crazy over had I been following new guitars at this point in time. So that made me curious about these and wanting to know more. On top of that, the finishes on these are just gorgeous. Look at this. A scarlet red, charcoal, whiskey gold. That's kind of a cool name to it. Burgundy plum, that has me really interested. Denim blue and reptile green. I'm betting most people dismiss these from far away without actually learning about them. The specs on this thing are phenomenal. You have a maple neck with a true rosewood fretboard and a swamp ash body. But if that's not enough, look down here. Does that neck heel joint not look familiar? That's the same thing they're using on the most expensive Gibson USA guitar made today, the Les Paul Modern. I guess I never really realized that it had been used before on entry-level models. And on top of that, I love the way they advertise the bridge. ABR1 style bridge. Now, I can't find hardly any photos of these things in real life, but I am betting that is that stud-mounted ABR1 bridge being advertised truthfully. Not just Gibson lying to you saying, yeah, it's an ABR1, then you get it at the store and realize it's been stud-mounted. Because, if you're buying an ABR1 guitar, you're paying for the privilege. Yes, it's harder to mount them that way, but that's the whole point. You're paying a premium for that. Now, sure, these things have the goofy, smaller headstock, Korean-made pots, and it's only dot inlays. It's a Les Paul Studio. And the pickups in these series, I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of them. They are a double slug Alnico 5 magnet, but you've got master volume, master tone with a 3-way toggle switch in a format that a lot of people are kind of familiar with. They just move the toggle switch a bit. You've got the output jack on the side, but what I love about ash bodies, especially on a Les Paul, is the beautiful wood grain. And when you match that with all these exotic finishes, I'm sorry I missed out on these. Let's look at them here in the stock photos. Reptile green. That thing is just beautiful. If only they would have matched the Gibson logo with it too. More in ebony. Normally I would think that's a boring color, but it works with the ash body. Denim blue. That is just gorgeous. Now keep in mind, with a maple neck, you could potentially find one with just ridiculous flame. I will forever be on the hunt for an extraordinary, ordinary example of these. Here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. See how this maple neck has some pretty decent figuring in it? I'm looking for one that's even more figured than that. Now this particular scarlet red, it doesn't have the best wood grain in it, but it's still a nice color. It's not your traditional wine red. Burgundy plum, it looks terrible in this photo. Charcoal black, it's not too different from worn ebony, but I think it's a slightly lighter shade of black. I'm not sure. And here's the whiskey gold color, which I thought was kind of a creative play on words. You know, you look in a glass of whiskey, you call it gold. I mean, it's not like a gold top, but it's kind of got the molassesness to it. So I would have to choose denim blue, maybe even reptile green. These are kind of like the Voodoo series, but with fruitier flavors. But let's face it, the title Les Paul Custom Studio has to be one of the worst names ever given to a guitar. I mean, this one ranks up there with the Les Paul. If you think a Les Paul Studio Custom or a Studio Standard from the late 80s was terribly named, look at this thing. Les Paul Custom, usually seen as like the highest end Les Paul you could buy, then Les Paul Studio, the lowest end model you could buy. Now I get what they were trying to do. It's the highest end version of the new lower Studio S-Series here, but it makes it impossible to search. Gibson Les Paul Custom Studio. Do you think we're going to find it with these keywords? No, it pulls up the Studio Customs. And yeah, I don't see any of them here. It just pulls up a bunch of studios. You might say, hey, why don't you put 2017 in the title, Dumbo? Yeah, you still don't find any. Let's go ahead and check out the sold listings. Okay, now we pulled up a few. 4, 8, one is a project. There's only ever been 10 of these to sell on Reverb. 10 custom studios. These things are just as difficult to find on Google or eBay. I don't think I've ever actually ran into one of these things. So A, they're either incredibly fantastic guitars, or they just didn't make that many of them because the price point didn't really make sense to a bunch of people. Man, if I was reviewing new models back in the day, I bet I could have made this thing on top if it was any good because these specs are fantastic to me. It's different. Gibson doesn't do swamp ash too often. I mean, there's things out there, but it's definitely not offered every single year. So let's go ahead and hear how one of these sound. Question left, would you rock a Les Paul Custom Studio or not? Leave your answer down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.